Welcome back, YouTubers, to another NXT review with me, Mr. Parkin, on behalf of the British Fist. If you have any comments or thoughts on NXT in general or this week's NXT, well, you know where to put those thoughts. There's a voice for you guys, and it's called the comments section below. And this week's NXT had a bit of a different feel around it because it wasn't filmed in Full Sail University. It was filmed in Columbus, Ohio, as part of the Arnold Sports Festival. And really, it was all about making NXT a brand in itself rather than feel like a developmental territory, and part of doing that is doing what they do on the main roster, and that is, you know, pretty much tour America or wherever they go, in Europe in some cases. So the set and everything presentation-wise I thought was very well done here, considering it was a live event, and I imagine this was a special taping for the TV show. They even used some different camera angles here, probably more out of necessity than anything else, really. And the ramp and set looked a little odd at first, but, you know, these kind of things you kind of just have to get used to when you're filming in a different location, especially when it is, you know, the third-tier brand, I suppose you could call it, in WWE and in NXT. And they did their best here, I feel, to make it feel like a big show, like it is some kind of takeover show or something. I mean, they built up the matches they had on there. They had video packages, and, you know, they looked into the Arnold Sports Festival and how WWE gets involved in there. They even looked at Triple H being awarded some kind of reward. I can't remember what the name of the award was for his contribution to the community over there. So I think overall, I like the idea of this show. I mean, obviously this is the first show of its kind, so they're going to try and make it feel special somewhat. And I really like the idea of NXT not just being in Full Sail University. I mean, they can still continue to tape TV shows there, but it's nice to see NXT outside of Full Sail University selling out these you know, locations and actually still drawing a great reaction from these crowds, as we've come to expect from the Full Sail University. It just goes to show it's not Full Sail University necessarily that is, you know, giving NXT this reaction. It is the, like many people have said, it's the exposure of NXT on the WWE Network and the popularity that NXT seems to be getting as its own brand, and it's really spreading all over America and probably even all over the world. So I was really excited to see what they had to offer here. And if you have any, like I said, if you have any comments or anything like that regarding this, please let me know down in the comment section below. Now, with all that out the way, let's take a look at what NXT gave us on this hour worth of wrestling. I think this show started off with the perfect opener. You need a match to go out there and really get the crowd going and really get the crowd pumped for the show that's coming. And Kalisto and Tyler Breeze, I believe, was the perfect match to do that. I mean, these two went out there. They didn't really have to tell any kind of story. They just had exactly the kind of match that gets the crowd going, one with some nice spots and some innovative spots, especially from Kalisto. And Tyler Breeze gets the victory here. No real meaning for this match. It was just one of those kind of matches that you send out there which has really no meaning to get the crowd pumped for the show. So in that sense, I think this match did everything it needed to do. Tyler Breeze right now is on a bit of a roll in his feud with Hideo Itami, so I believe you did have to have him win here. And even though Kalisto here still got to show his skills and got to show exactly why he could be somewhat of a unique character for the NXT brand in the future, possibly even the WWE brand if they want someone to replace that Rey Mysterio kind of player. So they did some build for the NXT Tag Team Championship feud between Team SA, WFT Soft, and Wesley Blake and Buddy Murphy. And as per usual, Colin Cassidy and Enzo Amore managed to elicit a great reaction from yet another crowd. Words cannot describe how over these two guys are. It really is amazing. And, you know, this match between Colin Cassidy and Wesley Blake, you know, it was what it was. You know, we weren't really watching it exactly for it to be a 5-star match. It was there just to continue on this feud. And, you know, that whole bump thing with Carmella, while I believe it was a good idea in practice, you know, the crowd really didn't seem to like Carmella for one reason or another. They seemed way more into Enzo Amore and Colin Cassidy, so that bump really didn't kind of work, in my opinion. I understand what they were doing with that bump. They were trying to get some heat onto Wesley Blake and Buddy Murphy, but it just didn't happen. You know, still, at least they're trying to do something to try and build up these two in two teams into a feud, rather than just having match after match after match. Even though you could argue to some degree that Colin Cassidy versus Wesley Blake is like the lazy way of booking tag teams and having two guys in singles matches part of a tag team. So we had Alexa Bliss versus Sasha Banks, one of our pre-announced matches on this show, in a non-title match. And first thing I realised was, you know, Alexa Bliss really didn't get a great reaction from her home crowd, which is a bit of a shame, really. She's only just returned from injury. She's only really had one match, so they haven't really managed to, you know, really build her up into a sense that people would react to her. So this kind of didn't surprise me too much, but you'd think in her hometown, she would get a little bit of a better reaction from the home crowd. Then you look at someone like Sasha Banks, who is a character that's been very built up over time and is the NXT Women's Champion. You know, she got a very good reaction. And there's, you know, a very obvious difference there in, you know, the reactions that these girls are getting. And it's mainly due to the way they build the characters and the depth they give to these characters and also how they perform in the ring. You know, you look at someone like Alexa Bliss, and while she is a, you know, to some people could be a very good-looking female, she's very green in the ring. But, you know, Sasha Banks managed to get a good amount out of her in this match. And, you know, she did get the win via count out Alexa Bliss, and much to the dismay of the home crowd, who I believe wanted to see a clean finish to this match. And you know what? I get it. You know, you want to give Alexa Bliss momentum because she hasn't been back very long, but you also don't want to have Sasha Banks lose clean either. So I kind of get why they did that finish, even though it was a tad disappointing. Apparently, these two are going to be facing off next week in an NXT Women's Championship match. So next week should be a pretty good show, as we're also getting Kevin Owens versus Finn Balor. More on that later, but more on Divas, really, actually, because there was quite a lot to do with the Divas on this show. One thing I do want to talk about here is how nice it is to see some new faces in the NXT Women's division. We had a brief look at Dana Brooks at some point in NXT. She's going to be making her debut, and like I said, we do need some new faces in there, and I'm quite interested to see what exactly Dana Brooks is going to be all about. You know, we've seen a lot of Sasha Banks, Bayley, Charlotte, Becky Lynch. We've seen a lot of those four, so I look forward to seeing some new faces in that NXT Women's Championship division, because I believe it's got to that point where, you know, we do really need it, but they can't just put these girls in there. They've got to try and build their characters up a little bit. I mean, you can shove a Bayley or a Becky Lynch in there for maybe one feud or maybe one match, but in that time, we need to start building up some new female talent to really replace some of the female talent like, you know, Paige and Charlotte that are essentially going to be out of NXT now. So our main event for this Columbus, Ohio show was NXT champion Kevin Owens versus the returning to the ring #Rage Alex Riley. And this feud, like we all know, has been built up for several weeks now, has even involved Alex Riley coming out of the commentary table to now be getting back inside the ring as an in-ring competitor, which I am all for, especially on the NXT brand. And throughout the night, the crowd weren't really very sympathetic to most of the baby faces, and it didn't really change of Alex Riley here. They didn't really give Alex Riley a great reaction as he came out as a babyface. And Kevin Owens, as per usual, got a fantastic reaction from the Columbus, Ohio crowd, and I believe it's mainly because of the way Kevin Owens is being booked right now. I mean, let's face it, much like Brock Lesnar on the main roster, this guy is getting booked like he is the above and all else of NXT right now, and people just seem to love a beast. You know, they really do. Just look at the way people cheer Brock Lesnar and the way they cheer Brock Lesnar when he comes out. Yes, I know he's a special attraction, but people just seem to love cheering for a beast. It just seems to be that way. And Kevin Owens has just been built up so well ever since he debuted in NXT that people have now got to the point where they're just cheering this guy because he's such a beast. But anyway, moving on from that, there really was no difference here in the way Kevin Owens was booked. He was booked incredibly strongly here. And other than a couple of comebacks, Alex Riley didn't really get much in. So really, overall, this was really just enhancement for Kevin Owens on the road to Finn Balor next week, which is going to happen. And really, overall, although Kevin Owens was made to once again look like a beast, I'm kind of surprised they'd build up Alex Riley this much and have him go through this much of an emotional turmoil just to make him look like a jobber. It surprised me a little bit, and, you know, maybe I think they could definitely use him on the NXT brand. I really do, because there isn't really many people like Alex Riley that have his build, etc. So I think having him in a feud lower down the card in the future will definitely benefit NXT. As for the feud between Kevin Owens and Finn Balor, they did a little bit here. They had Kevin Owens just about to do the powerbomb on the ring apron to Alex Riley. You had Finn Balor come out and save the day and lay the smackdown on Kevin Owens, ready for next week. You know, Kevin Owens has looked like a beast for some time now, and you did need to give Finn Balor a little bit of rub here to make him look like a legitimate threat going after Kevin Owens next week, which is going to be for the NXT Championship. So I think they did a good job here in actually building the Finn Balor character up and, you know, on the way to Kevin Owens, which is going to be next week. And that should definitely be a good match, you know, between Finn Balor and Kevin Owens. And I think that next week should be a pretty good show. We got that as the main event. We got a NXT Women's Championship match. Maybe they'll give the NXT Tag Team Championship match. You know, I'm not really sure. I think next week's show is being built up as some kind of special pre-WrestleMania show. So there we go. I also want to move on to hear the point that apparently Kevin Steen has had a little bit of surgery and won't be on NXT for about 4 to 6 weeks. And I do really sort of look forward to seeing how they're going to compensate for that. Are they going to still have him on the show? Are they still just going to have him talking? Are they going to try and make some kind of main event feud, you know, using two characters that wouldn't usually be in the main event? I just wonder what they're going to do about their champion. I mean, when Sami Zayn went out of NXT because he was going to Abu Dhabi, they gave the championship to Kevin Owens, and now Kevin Owens is going to be out. You know, what are they going to do? Just a little room for thought there. Overall, though, I thought the show was pretty good. I mean, it was mainly due to the fact that we're seeing it in a different setting, and, you know, it's when you see something different like that, it does kind of pump you up a little bit more for the show. I think we got a pretty good opener out of Kalisto and Tyler Breeze. I really enjoyed that, and once again, Colin Cassidy and Enzo Amore are incredibly entertaining. You know, Alexa Bliss and Sasha Banks gave us a decent women's match. I expect a little bit better next week, though, with a clean finish. And Kevin Owens versus Alex Riley was good booking for Kevin Owens, and they booked Finn Balor very well here on the way to their match next week. So I think all in all, I think this show did exactly what it needed to do. You gave the crowd in Columbus, Ohio, a little bit of a taster of NXT while building to what is going to be a TV show next week. So if you have any thoughts on this show, please let me know down in the comment section below. I will see you hopefully next week on Thursday. I'm sorry this video was late this week, but I was busy on Wednesday and I was busy on Thursday, and this is the earliest I could get the NXT review. But hopefully next week I'll watch it on Wednesday night and record the review for the Thursday, as Wednesday is going to be a Q&A and a WrestleMania-themed Q&A. Unfortunately, you cannot submit questions for that, as we already had enough, really, to fill a Q&A. So thank you very much for watching. If you have, goodbye.